And when the question is raised that our education is missing nationalism, then its counter question is that why such questions are coming out in our mind and discourse when we all are nationalists. I am giving two examples. I begin with the examples. You know that when a boy of 5th class, 6th class, 7th class, 8th class, 9th class comes out of the class after taking education, you ask him, what do you feel about India? What do you feel about yourself? If he is in the position to define himself by that education, then you can redefine the nationalism. What does he feel about India? What does he feel about himself as an Indian? How the education makes him to feel, how he is distinct from American, Chinese, and rest of the world in positive and negative context. This is the thing which we need to ponder. I'm giving one example. We read the history of freedom movements. We read the history and we find that glorious role of certain individuals. They have played the glorious role. But I am taking 7 names. Umakant Prasad Sinha, a 9th class student. 9th class means hardly 13 to 14 years old. Ram Govind Singh, he was a 9th class student. Devi Pad Chaudhary, he was a 9th class student. Again, Satish Prasad Jha, 10th class student. Rajendra Prasad, 10th class student. Jagat Prati Chaudhary, 10th class student. Now these 9th and 10th class 7 students led the freedom movement on 11th August 1942, hoisted the national flag at the top of the Patna Secretariat in Bihar. All were killed by the police firing. 6,000 people's crowd was there. And the martyrdom of the boys of 9th class, 10th class and 11th class, they were bearers of the nationalism. I am giving other example. We read the books of history. We have the role of Jawaharlal Nehru, Mahatma Gandhi, others, they have definitely played the role. But I am taking 2 more names. Highly poor people, marginalized people. Uda Devi was from Lucknow. She was a part of the freedom movement in 1857. She led the contingent of Indian revolutionaries and 32 British soldiers were killed. Uda Devi's martyrdom is not in the history book. Jhalkari Bai, Uda Devi was a Pasi, a very marginalized caste in North India, a Dalit caste. Jhalkari Bai from Rajasthan, she is not the part of the textbook. She was also part of the 1857 movement. When you read that 7 boys of 9th, 10th, 11th class led the freedom movement, a Dalit woman, Uda Devi and Jhalkari Bai led the 1857 movement, this gives a sense of pride. So, our history textbook is not inclusive. I don't say this is not a nationalist. It is not inclusive. It is not inspiring. It is not the people's history. It is not reaching to the grassroots. That is the missing. I am giving another example that is very important. Things which give the sense of patriotism and pride that we Indians, at the most adverse hour of our history, asserted at the World Forum. You know, when the Britishers came, we are not fighting merely in the streets. We all know that Dadabhai Naoroji was a great personality. He propounded the theory of drain of wealth in 1870. Not that. Much before him, 30 years ago, Bhaskar Pandurang, his name is not in the book of history. Bhaskar Pandurang wrote 8 letters to the editor in Bombay Gazette, a newspaper. That was not an article, a letter to editor. That created a uproar in the British Parliament. In 8, he started letter, the first letter was written on 30th July 1941. In that he propounded the theory of drain of wealth from India. In a long letter, he enlightened the world how India is being drained. And in his 5th letter, that was on 20th August 1941, he identified how much wealth is being drained from India. That are British collected 70 crores from Indians as a tax, and 20 crore pounds, which amounts to present day more than 1,000 crore rupees, were spent on pay, pension, perks of the Britishers, whether they are in India or in England. 31 years later, Dada Bhai Naoroji propounded the brain drain theory. So, before the formation of the Congress, there were intellectuals in the country who were contesting the British imperialism and challenging the moral basis of the imperialism. These things are missing. These narratives are missing. That is our urge. We should not be obsessed with the Mughal history, that everything, all discourses begins and ends with the Mughal history. I am coming to other dimensions. History consists of 2 things. One is a struggle, second is contribution. This part, freedom movement, is a part of the struggle, and I have just narrated that these are not an objectively written history, inclusive history where Dalit participation, common people like Bhaskar Pandurang's participation, they are unmentioned. When you are mentioning Dada Bhai Naoroji, let the 9th class students know. Who was Dada Bhai Naoroji? When he wrote in 1971, again there was a discussion in the British Parliament. And that person who was challenging the moral basis of British Parliament, who contested the election of British Parliament. And you know, the British Prime Minister Lord Salisbury campaigned against him. In his public speeches, he called him a black man. It was a prestige issue of the Prime Minister of the Britain. And Dada Bhai Naoroji was elected. He got 2,956 votes. And his opponent got 2,953 votes. He won by 3 votes. These kind of role of Indians within the freedom movement, before the freedom movement, after the freedom movement, should have been the part of the history that is missing. You know, when aesthetic, this is the point of discussion all over the world. 1,000 years ago, there was a Kashmiri scholar who wrote a book that created an entire world, a discussion, Abhinav Gupta. Why not history is mentioning? 1,000 years old. That's why, you know, a great social reformer, Ranade, he was addressing the Hindu club in 1895. In that meeting he said, very important thing he said. That's why I am not discussing who is calling Bharat Mata, who is not calling Bharat Mata. These are very small things of discussion. These are the political dimensions. These are not going to change the destiny of India. India's destiny is being changed by the common masses, their own discourse. If someone is saying that वो भारत के कष्ट पूरी कर देंगे, and I think that we should go deeper to the discourse, so that the common people should understand the meaning of being Indian. If Abhinav Gupta is missing, you know, I'm taking the 3 names: Shankaracharya, Ramanuj, Madhvacharya. Who are these people? They are not merely the name The name of Shankaracharya looks like that he is some kind of some religious figure, just like some Islamic religious figure, Christian religious. Not that. They are the philosopher of eminence. Entire world that is known as the subject, post-colonial discourse. Entire world is studying Madhvacharya, studying the Shankaracharya philosophy, but we Indians just know these three names, either accept or reject. I call two syndrome is creating disturbances in our mind. One is intellectual coercion. Intellectual coercion is by what already has been mentioned by the leftist historians and Nehruvian state. They coerced the alternative views. They described the past, they selected the facts of the past according to the present. So past has been recreated, reconstructed, redefined according to the present. So the history has been, or this is an aberration of the history. Facts don't change, interpretation changes. Second is not concerned to Marxists, concerned to those who oppose Marxism and Nehruvian. We are intellectually lazy people. In this audience, I am asking how many people have seen the cover page of the Manusmriti? Can you raise the hands? Anyone who has, Prabhuji, two, three people, naturally Prabhuji must have read, I am keeping an exception. But whenever the Manusmriti comes, and television debate, people come, television debate or any discourse, you will find people say Manusmriti is wrong, sometimes they say Manusmriti right. Without knowing what is in Manusmriti, we say it is wrong, it is right. So this is intellectual laziness. We start depending on others' point of view. This is the land of Nachiketa. A small boy is questioning the man of the highest, who is depository of the wisdom. He is questioning, no, I don't believe. Can you answer me? Entire plethora of Indian texts, Rishi Muni's contributions could not satisfy Nachiketa. He wanted to know by himself. So, nationalism means, or education means, when your power of reasoning is evolved. When your conviction in yourself is developed. Third, your concern for your land, your people, your fraternity is increased. Fourth, you think in terms of contributing to the humanity. That is India's nationalism. I will conclude here with making a fundamental difference between the concept of nationalism, what we feel, what nationalism Western or other countries feel. Their nationalism is product of war-time nationalism. World War I, World War II. Their nationalism is product of ethnic crisis, linguistic crisis. We are the people, more than languages we know, more than dialectics which have been mentioned. No textbook can give the definite number of dialectics in India. No textbook can claim that this is the definite number of languages spoken in India. Old Tamil is a classical language. Is classified as the resource language of the world. You know, we have treasure of information and knowledge. So I think when we think in the past, the intellectual connection with the past is a matter of head, not the heart. When you get connected through heart, then you start worshipping or rejecting. There are only two choices. Heart has only two alternatives. Either it loves or it hates. Heart cannot be neutral. But mind can be neutral, mind can hate, mind can love. Mind has all three options. So, connecting the past is a matter of hate. Then you go through your own literature, If find the contextualize from with the present, then come with the world community that this is our philosophy. So I am ending. The real crisis is in India, which nationalism should address, is redefining our social ideal. And I am quoting Bhandarkar. He was the great reformist of 19th century of Maharashtra. Bhandarkar, in his address on 27 December 1894, second Hindu Social Reform Association in Madras, he said something which is very pertinent to the contemporary India. Social ideal of India was higher and more rational in ancient India than now. That's why he says in the ancient India we have a society based on harmony. There is no discrimination on caste. The untouchability, there was no question of untouchability. So later on, Ranade led the discourse. He said, we should feel proud of illustrious ancestors, those ancestors who have contributed, in which time the philosophies were developed, science and technology, art and literature grew up. Those illustrious ancestors are to be connected with the present. Immediate past is divided. That's why I end with that. Our nationalism is not the monopoly of the interpretation of Marxist or any group of intellectuals. It is you who have to become a Nachiketa. The moment Indian children become Nachiketa, become Ram Govind, become Umakant Sinha, and take the tricolor in their hands, don't see that 6,000 crowd of the 40-year age are just onlookers, and 9th, 10th class students are taking the flag and are hoisting at the top of the secretariat. And Nachiketa, a small boy, is questioning the highest depository of wisdom. The moment Indian children, Indian boys, Indian men and women think the India's history would change, India's definition of nationalism change. The moment we will remain dependent, parasitic, the entire discourse would remain divisive, polemical and unfruitful. Thank you.